Welcome to Inheriting the Future. I'm Nate Kirk.
And I'm David Wall. We're two kids from Gaylord, Michigan who grew up watching incredible people quietly build something worth inheriting.
Before we head off in different directions, we decided to sit down with those people and ask them everything we wish we'd asked sooner.
Because we believe the greatest gift one generation can give the next isn't money or property, it's wisdom.
And we're here to make sure it doesn't get lost.
So our guest today spent over 4 decades making sure the rest of the world knew exactly how special Michigan is. And if you've ever heard 2 words that make you feel genuinely proud to be from this state, you have him to thank.
Dave Lorenz is the co-creator of Pure Michigan Tourism Campaign, one of the most celebrated and recognizable state tourism brands in American history. He spent more than 2 decades at Travel Michigan, rising to vice president before retiring in 2023. Along the way, he helped transform how the entire country thought about Michigan, and more importantly, how Michiganders thought about themselves.
In August of 2023, his peers in the U.S. Travel Association honored his career by naming him the National State Tourism Director of the Year. He currently hosts the Michigan Travel Show on 760 WJR Detroit and couldn't stay retired for long as he currently serves as the executive director of the West Michigan Tourist Association.
So Dave, welcome to Inheriting the Future. We're glad to have you on.
Thank you. You guys have done your research. Four decades, saying it that way sounds really scary. Yeah, it has been that long, but it's been really rewarding and most of the time, a lot of fun.
Yeah, so let's start at the beginning. So your first exposure to radio came really early on in your life. I know you worked multiple part-time jobs at radio stations in college, and what drew you to broadcasting from such an early age, and what kept that pull alive?
Well, in high school, I don't know if they still require this. I think they should, but we were required to take speech class, and you had to do so many speeches, and I flunked. I was flunked in the only class I ever flunked. A fellow by the name of Roger Scudder, who's still with us, was my teacher, and I thought I'd be able to skate through because I was not a comfortable speaker in front of audiences. It's the greatest fear for most people, and it was for me. But I had gotten to know him, kind of on the side, volunteering in the theater program, kind of in the backstage stuff. So I thought, I've done close enough. He's going to pass me. Well, he didn't. It was the greatest gift I probably have ever received for my career and really for understanding about responsibility and what's important in life in that way, because I had to take that over. And it was a great gift. I learned how to be comfortable speaking in front of people. And as part of that program, there was a TV and radio component that he included. So I got very involved in radio and TV. And before you know it, I was really enjoying it. And when I graduated high school, I went on to Western Michigan University and worked with the communications department in the communications resource lab. So I was able to take every communications course I wanted to take in 2 years. Everyone you could take. I even taught a lab, so to speak, for video. And I all throughout college worked at a radio station back home. So I never spent a weekend at college. I do not recommend that, by the way. But that's just the way it was with me, because I was working at 2 radio stations back home and a radio station on campus. So I did learn the work ethic plan. But I do really recommend people, enjoy their life when they're young as well, a little bit more than I probably did. But it also kind of led me to getting into my career pretty early. I was able to get a full-time job right out of high school in a radio station, worked several radio stations over the years. That led me to working for Meyer Corporate as a media buyer. Eventually, because of a really smart guy by the name of Paul Smarto, we developed what we called the collaborative marketing program. It was something that was never done before in retail, working with a variety of consumer goods partners think about people like Coca-Cola and Kraft and Nabisco. And we put together promotions that helped them sell their products at our stores. And in fact, they were so successful that they even helped to sell their products at other stores and helped to grow the entire category. We would do a potato chip promotion, for instance, and we would sell more potato chips per door than had ever been done before, things like that. It was really a great education and a great experience. And at some point, George Zimmerman, who was the travel director at Travel Michigan, was looking for a number two, and I applied, and I couldn't believe he hired me. And that's how we got going in the travel industry. And all throughout this time, I should point out that I was volunteering in a variety of ways. And one of the things I volunteered with was the Grand Haven Coast Guard, and they got me to understand a lot about the festival business. So over time, I helped other festivals organize and develop, and kind of became a festival consultant, so to speak. So it kind of led into this natural evolution from broadcasting to retail marketing to marketing a state for travel and tourism. So it's you never know which direction you're going to go. So always keep your eyes open and keep the opportunities open in your mind as well. It has worked for me, and it's been a pleasure all throughout these years.
Yeah, that's awesome. And so after more than a decade as a managing director at Travel Michigan, Michigan obviously let go of the old Great Lakes, Great Time slogan in favor of what became the Pure Michigan brand. What prompted that change, and how did you get people to genuinely buy in and renew their sense of pride in the state?
I grew up in this state. I've always known it's just really special and unique. And besides being in Michigan, when I was at Meyer, I was traveling all over the country on behalf of the company. And it became very obvious to me that Michigan's really special. It's not just another place, this four-season state with awesome, unbelievable natural experiences to offer and unique cities, not perfect, but perfect for who they are. And friendly people. And so that was really understood by me. And so I went to work at Travel Michigan, and George Zimmerman, he had been all over the country as well. He had been director of Ohio at one time. And he had a vision that we could do so much more if we really got serious about promoting the state. So I had brand background working for Meyer. And so when we were talking about what we could do with the state and with the state of tourism, he just believed that we could do so much more. So we got serious about it. I'll never forget, he called me in the office one day and he said something like, "I think it's time," something along that line. So we said, "Okay, what do you mean?" And he says, "Well, I think it's time we really get serious about this." So we brought together over time probably 200 people who helped us develop the brand. And a brand, people need to understand, a brand is not a logo, it's not a slogan. It's really you could consider it like the emotional connection you have with a product or a service. When you think of Coca-Cola, for instance, I doubt if you think, well, this is the cola that is my preferred, brand or whatever it is. You just feel that connection with that. You know what it makes you feel like? It's the taste, it's the smell, it's the sound. It's the feeling it gives you as you're drinking that product. If that's your brand, you're connected to it. So we had 200 people give us input. And over that time, not only did we develop the name and the phrase and the feeling of what we felt we needed to present, but we kind of decided that we also needed to really have the financial backing to get this done. So we went to Governor Granholm at the time and said, we think we really have something here. And eventually we started to grow the budget, and we're able to tell that story. McCann Erickson was the agency of record out of Birmingham, Michigan. They did a great job with the right images and video and such. So it's a real team that put this together. I've occasionally heard people say, "Well, I came up with Pure Michigan," and everybody wants, there, what do they say? There are many fathers of success, but failure is an orphan. So a lot of people take credit for it. The reality is it was a team effort, and there were so many people involved, the Travel Commission, you name it. And over the years, George and I and the team, and now Kelly Wolgamott, have made sure that we're nurturing that brand and that we're always telling the truth, because that's so important with brand. If you try to oversell it, so to speak, or say something that's not true about that product or service, you might be able to sell it once, but you'll never sell it again. So you have to be truthful about it. So if you think about those ads you've seen or heard with the voice of Tim Allen or others, you know that those messages are real, that our natural environment is really spectacular. We have a 4-season environment to offer. And whether you're into winter, summer, spring, fall, there's something for you. And whether you're into outdoors, whether you're into city experiences, and everything in between, we really have it all. We are so blessed to live here. And it was a real pleasure to be able to tell that story over 21 and a quarter years.
So you kind of spoiled my next question, but obviously as part of that rebranding came a new voice of Michigan tourism. And for some of us, we may know him as Buzz Lightyear from Toy Story, just now as Toy Story 5, but others, I know him also as Tim the Toolman Taylor from Home Improvement. So how did you land on Tim Allen?
Yeah, the McCann folks asked us, okay, who do we think would be, the right presence, whether it be somebody on camera, like Jeff Daniels did some work with us on the MEDC, the Michigan Economic Development Corporation business side for a while. Tremendous talent. So we considered him. We considered so many voices for the Pure Michigan advertising. We knew that we wouldn't be able to afford using the visual presence of a famous actor, because that cost a lot of money. But we wanted to have a distinctive voice, and one that was authentically one that everyone knew loved Michigan. And I believe we thought of everybody. I mean, Madonna, Aretha Franklin, Alice Cooper, who has a great set of pipes, by the way. So many other people we thought of, all the Motown people and the sports people. And after a while, it became obvious to us that Tim Allen would be the right person. It was really the agency, I think, that came up with that originally. We contacted him, and he immediately said he would love to be able to do it if we can come up with a deal. And he gave us the best deal we could have with the union deals. He's been a tremendous person for Pure Michigan. I wish they were still using him, but the idea was when I was still there, we would move the voice to using other people to really demonstrate the diversity of the state. And I was hoping that we would bring him back at one time, and I still hope they still will, because he's tremendous. He's so successful. He's one of the best known celebrities in the world. And you think about, the stand-up, the TV, the movies, the Santa Claus, the Buzz Lightyear, and all the other things he's done. I interviewed him one time for our 10th anniversary, and you can find that on YouTube if you just search Pure Michigan Tim Allen. And I thought it was touching that I saw that he had made a couple of comments in Ad Age magazine that after all those years of doing the various things, the thing that he was most proud of was working on behalf of Pure Michigan. And I asked him about that. And his answer to that was, it's the people. It's because of the people he wanted to do it. He was so appreciative that Michigan really got his career started. He still lives here every summer. As soon as he can get out of LA, he does. I know you're right. He's out pitching the movie right now, but he'll be back in Michigan soon, I'm sure. And we just felt he was the right guy, and he was. We won so many awards. I mean, we won so many awards. We stopped applying for them with U.S. Travel Association. It was a bit embarrassing. We'd start to win all the awards, and people would start, applauding at first, and by the end, it was like, you could hear the moans of jealousy. There's nothing better to hear your colleagues and your contemporaries out there being jealous about you and what you're doing. But we just didn't want to do that too much. It was such a good brand. It still continues to be. And it's one of the things I'm most proud of in my career.
it's just so cool to see an actor of his fame just be so down to earth and willing to help others within his local community. So, and obviously throughout your entire career, you've watched tourism messaging shift completely, from radio and print ads to social media, influencers, working with celebrities such as Tim Allen, and now immersive and accessibility focused campaigns. From where you sit, having lived through all of that, what are the real pros and cons of that transition, and where do you think media takes us next?
Yeah. Yeah, it's funny. Media will always change. There'll always be new type of medium to use. Back in the day when they went to these boards that people would put over their shoulder and they stand on the side of the street and sell things. People thought this is genius. So media changes constantly. And today with social media, there are so many things you can do. Radio, TV, print. They all work for what they do. Billboards, you name it, digital. All of these things work to hit a certain segment of the audience. But the fact is, if you don't have the right message and if you don't present it well, using the medium that you have available to you, and then because of that medium that's there, you might need to demonstrate that brand in a different way, present it in a different way. So over the years, we learned how to do that. And you just keep on evolving. Life evolves, life changes in every way. That's part of business, that's part of life. And if you're not always willing to consider the ways you've done things in the past and change it in the future to find a better way, you're making a big mistake. And that is a life lesson there. It's not just about business and advertising for sure. I spent a lot of time with Tim Allen, between being in the engineering studio, doing his ads, recordings, and spending some time personally with him. I cannot think of somebody not only that loves the state as much as he does, but is genuine, unique, normal. He is not a celebrity as you might think it. He's just a normal guy. And that's part of what makes him perfect for pure Michigan, because Michigan is not a state that hosts cities like LA or New York City or Miami. Michigan's a real state. So Tim demonstrated exactly what we are as a state, just normal, everyday people trying to live our lives, do things better than we did them before, help people along the way, and experience wonderful things. So it was really, having him as a voice was so natural. I've really enjoyed getting to know him. He's quite a guy, and a lot of fun.
Kind of pivoting a different direction, I know there's this real tension in tourism that doesn't really get talked about enough, that a lot of rural communities across Michigan specifically are incredibly proud of their identity and history, but equally protective of the quiet lifestyle they built. So how do you balance showcasing Michigan's natural beauty without compromising the character of these places that can get quickly overrun when a campaign puts them in the spotlight?
But it's an important issue, and one that the travel industry has really evolved to pay attention to over the last 15 years. I mean, there was a time when, especially here, we were just trying to get as many people here as we could. The economy had just tanked before we started the Pure Michigan campaign. And I believe the Pure Michigan campaign did so much, not only to get people to travel, but as you said in the beginning, Dave and Nate, Pure Michigan helped to bring about this sense of pride. It really did. It engenders this sense of pride for people. And if you're proud about a place or anything else, you will support it. So we had to be careful with Pure Michigan. We realized that we were having great success, and that some of that success was maybe overcrowding some places. I'm in Traverse City right now, and I know that summer weekends in Traverse City can be really busy. Same thing in places like Munising in the summertime with the really beautiful place that is and the great experiences you can have at Picture Rocks National Lakeshore. So over times we had been contacted. Hey, there were too many people here. Is there anything you can do? So we worked to direct people in different ways in different places and to travel at different times, to not only travel on the weekends in the summer, but to try to find time during the week, and to maybe look at what we call the shoulder seasons, the fall and spring. It is something that the entire travel industry is looking to deal with. And during this break between Pure Michigan and what I'm doing now with the West Michigan Tourist Association, I worked as a consultant for a group called MMGY Next Factor, and we did research on behalf of the industry. And there were some things that we saw constantly popping up on trends, including the fact that the travel industry needed to do more to shape the places that they promote, not only for the travelers, but the people who live there, to make sure that the people who live there can prosper, but also live a good lifestyle. So we were constantly looking at that, and I still do today at West Michigan Tourist Association. We need to look at not only ways to make sure we're not overcrowding people, but we're also providing enough business so that those travelers come into a community, they spend money, they enjoy experiences, they help to employ people and bring a lot of tax revenue in for the community and the state. So there's always this, like you call it, tension going. And our job, both at the local level, at the Convention Visitors Bureau level, at the regional level with West Michigan Tourist Association as an example, and at the state level with Pure Michigan as an example, we're all aware of that today. But it took years to actually get to that point where we kind of changed the thought that, hey, the more the better. Well, the more isn't always better. So just having that understanding gets you started to dealing with it. There's a term in the travel industry we call regeneration. And we're trying to advance what we call regeneration in building long-term resilience for communities. Regeneration means basically it's kind of a shift from doing less harm than just not doing less harm, but to actively making things better, to making things more sustainable and restoring places. So that thought has really changed the way the travel industry is working today, to not only try to not overwhelm people with other people, but to look for ways to make those communities stronger and better, more prosperous, more livable. So, long way to say it is that we are aware of the issue as an industry. If you're aware of something, you can deal with it, and we have been.
So I'm an engineering guy, so I love numbers. So I did a little bit of research, and according to the Michigan Economic Development Corporation, in 2022 alone, Pure Michigan advertising influenced nearly 2.1 million leisure trips to the state. And like you said, that generates a lot of money for the communities, $3.1 billion in total spending, and also more than $195 million in state tax revenue. As you think back over the years, going from a state that was falling apart economically to one drawing in over 2 million vacations a year, what's like a couple of factors that stand out to you that without it, Pure Michigan never reaches that level?
Yeah, well, without Pure Michigan, not only would we have been able to reach those levels that you talked about, Dave, and those are real numbers, by the way. People ask me all the time, where do you make up these numbers? We don't make them up. If you're serious about doing anything, you better measure your results. If you don't measure it, you just don't have that baseline to look at how to get better at it. And if you're serious about getting better as an organization and an individual, you need to look at the facts and not fool yourself and try to fool others. Never works, by the way, to try to fool them. So those are real numbers from independent surveys and studies. And actually, they are the most conservative reading of those numbers if you look at them in different ways. So, for instance, yes, all those dollars came in from the traveler. But what we don't talk about enough is the impact that Pure Michigan has had on the rest of our society. Because I talked about the pride factor, that pride can be the greatest motivator, pride and faith and love that anyone has ever known. But also, when people all around the country, all around the world were seeing those Pure Michigan ads, they were saying, is that really the truth? Well, let's check it out. And so people come here to travel. And when they come here to travel, many of those people said, wow, I think we want to live here. And they moved. We were able to bring people into the state in a state that has been losing population. We also help to bring businesses in and keep businesses here, because businesses don't just come for, some kind of financial incentive. They're coming to a place that they want to live, in a place that they know will lure the type of employees they want to have. So we know we positively impacted that. I remember speaking to the Realtors Association years ago, and they wanted me to come speak to them because they said, you wouldn't believe the number of people who have started to look for buying houses in Michigan since Pure Michigan started. So I can't tell you how many stories I've heard over the years of businesses coming here, people moving here, people moving back to Michigan. It really has worked and continues to work. I do have a frustration of the campaign not being funded to the level that I think it should be right now. But that's politics. I spent a lot of time, by the way, working with legislators and the governor's office over the years, trying to communicate all these benefits and values. The challenge is there are a lot of voices out there that are louder than the advocates for Pure Michigan, and there are a lot of things that really need to be funded. So you're always in competition with other really good programs out there. So I understand why the budget hasn't been where I think it needs to be, but we need to get back there because it benefits everybody.
Dave, before we let you go, we end every single episode the same way.
So Dave, you spent your entire career telling Michigan's story to the world. You have fought for communities, big ones, small ones, the ones most people drive right past. You have seen what happens when a place finally gets to be seen for what it really is.
So with all of that, what's one thing anyone could do today to wake up to a better world tomorrow?
That's a great question. I will answer it with one things, if I might, because one is an attitude and the other is an action. Being positive is an attitude will not only change your life, it'll change other people's lives. Simply being positive, which involves all those other things like being friendly and being, looking for ways to little things to help people along the way. Being positive will change your life. And if you find yourself occasionally going to these negative emotions, turn it around. Be positive. It will pay you off. But if there's an action that I'd recommend, and I recommend all the time, it's volunteering. Volunteerism actually got me into this industry. When I started volunteering for Grand Haven Coast Guard Festival, I still do today. It got me involved in other groups. I worked in the literacy area. I worked in a variety of ways as a volunteer that connected me with a lot of people who eventually, over time, without any plan or expectation, have helped me in my career and in other ways, and I've helped them. So volunteering and being